Welcome. This is Mark, and welcome to my show, Tea With. Tonight, I have a very special guest. I have a good friend, Dan Long. Dan, you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yes. Thank you, Mark, for having me. Could you do a quick cheers here to start?
Yes, we're starting for a new season of Tea With.
Tea With. This is peyote-based, as Mark told me. It's not peyote-based. My name is Dan Long. Mark asked me to come on here to start off the season. I am a comedian down here. I've been doing stand-up for about 6 years. I moved down here a little over 4 years ago. Just been doing shows all over the place, do shows all over the country now. And yeah, now we're just gonna drink some tea and I think smoke some crystals or something. I don't know what Mark was saying he wanted me to do.
Well, we have some good questions to ask you, Dan. And before we went live, we're talking about transformation. So you want to tell everybody about how transformation relates to you?
So as far as transformation in my life, so as I mentioned, I've been down here about 4 years. I used to live in Pennsylvania. I was a journalist. I wrote for a newspaper. I lived with my dad. My life was pretty boring. Then I got a job down here and basically transformed my life, transformed everything. You know, I have a new girlfriend who's now my fiance, doing way better with the comedy, way better financially. Just kind of turned everything around, I guess, in the past 4 years from, you know, having kind of a boring life before.
So I just want to say to everybody that if you're watching this show live, just type in hashtag live. And if you are on a replay, just type in hashtag replay. And that way we know you're here. So Dan, what made you decide to go and try comedy out?
So it's one of those things. I'd been watching comedy for a long time, you know, whenever I was like in middle school. You know, up through high school was something I always liked. When I was young, I really liked like Jim Gaffigan. I used to like Dane Cook. I don't, you know, after I was not a teenager. You know, Lewis Black, and I used to watch their specials. You know, I always thought about trying it. And then, you know, thought about it for a long time. And then come college, I went to Penn State. I found out there was a club, and I joined the club like senior year. You know, tried it for the first time. Didn't think it was going to go that well. Went up there, did like super nervous, did like 3 minutes. Some reason people laughed at it, and I've just really been doing it ever since.
So would you say that you developed a heartfelt love for comedy?
I would. I mean, it's kind of gives me, you know, balance to my life. You know, when things are, whether it's no work or whatever, you know, it's like if you go out and, you know, you get some laughs on stage, it kind of makes up, you know, for everything else.
So part of, you know, doing a stand-up comedy is, I think, some courage, right? To go up there on stage and, you know, talk in front of people. So how do you develop that courage?
Well, it's just something that you develop over time. And, you know, there are still shows that I do, you know, that I'll get nervous about. You know, if it's like a show at a theater or like a comedy club with a ton of people, I'll get nervous. But it really just comes down to just doing it, you know, every week. You know, I'm out 3 to 4 nights a week. And once, like anything, once you just do it repeatedly, it's just kind of ingrained in your brain for just to be more natural, to, you know, to not get nervous when you get up there and do it.
So also to actually go up there, you know, 3 or 4 nights a week or whatever, requires some deal of energy, right? So where do you get your energy from? Like, what do you do?
Sometimes lately I've been drinking tequila. That help peps me up after a long day. But I don't know. You gotta find the motivation. Sometimes I don't have that much energy when I do it. I'm tired, but you know, the only way to get better is just to get out and do it.
So how about like finding material for, you know, your show and stuff like that? Like, where do you come with your material?
Just everyday life. You know, what I'm always doing is like, I have like a little notepad in my phone. And like when I think of something, I'll just write it down on my phone. It'll be like maybe a few sentences. And then when I get home, I'll, you know, expand out on it. You know, I'll write like a much longer bit, but it can literally occur anywhere. That's why, like, it's cool to have your phone handy. Anytime something pops in, you write it down. When you get home, you expand on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with fear when you're going up on the stage for a new gig or whatever? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, a lot of times I just tell myself, hey, I've been in this situation before, you know, and you've done well in this situation before. Or, you know, sometimes if it's like a smaller room, I'll say to myself, hey, you know, you've done better at a lot bigger room than this, you know, so this is nothing. And sometimes that will kind of help me, you know, with the fear. So it's just experience. It's just doing it long enough that it just doesn't bother you as much anymore.
So also, in terms of, you know, people that are trying to get into, you know, comedy and stuff like that, what advice can you say to them to inspire them to, you know, go after comedy if they feel that they're good at it?
I would just say just get out there and try it. You know, don't get discouraged if the first few times you do it, you don't do very well, because literally everybody sucks the first time they do it. You just don't really know how to construct a joke well. And the only other thing is if you do it, you know, and you may get a laugh, you know, the first couple of times you get out there, don't let it go to your head, because it sometimes it won't last. Sometimes you'll do really well the first few times, and then you'll go through a block. And like, if you get real cocky, you'll kind of piss people off that have been doing it for a while. So just say, go try it, and just be humble about it.
So can you, you know, off the cuff, just come up with some comedy routine really quick to show the audience?
I mean, do one of my bits?
Yeah, do one of your bits. You know, do a quick live comedy bit to
show,
show what you got there.
Wasn't expecting this, but I can do, you know, one of my jokes I've been doing for a long time. So as I mentioned, this kind of plays off what I was saying earlier. I did used to work at a newspaper. I used to work in a newspaper in my hometown, and you know, part of my job required me to put like NASCAR results on the sports pages, and as a result, the readers wrongly assumed that I both enjoyed and understood the sport of NASCAR. So one time, I'm eating in a restaurant, one of our readers comes up to me just to strike up a conversation, and he goes, "Hey Dan, what was your favorite race this year?" And I said, "Caucasian." That's a classic. I've been doing that one for probably 4 years.
That's definitely a good one. I have to remember that one.
Thank you.
So how about, like, you know, chasing after prosperity and also, you know, honing in on your gift? Because a lot of people, you know, that are, you know, going to comedy stuff like that, if they're not making the money or whatever, they kind of like give up. So what do you do to, you know, that you don't give up and continue past your dreams?
You just have to accept the fact that this is something that takes, you know, very long, like a long time to get good at. And you're exactly right. Like some people, you know, they'll be doing this for 5 years and they'll be like, oh, I should be booked at such and such place. I should be at all the comedy clubs. Like, I think it just makes it a lot easier for me if you just accept the fact that this is going to take a long time for this to, you know, to be prosperous from a financial standpoint and to be great at it. You know, I've been doing it for about 6 years now, and I feel I'm good at it, and I've improved a lot, but I'm not great yet, but I feel I will get great because I'm just going to keep working hard at it.
That's awesome. And in terms of, like, you know, doing stand-up comedy, right, what role would you say that vulnerability plays?
You do have to be somewhat vulnerable up there. You have to be willing to, you know, make fun of yourself, and also you have to sometimes make fun of what's going on, or even if you're not doing that well. Like sometimes, you know, especially if I'm practicing at an open mic, or sometimes doing a show, and you go up and do a joke, and it just doesn't work for whatever reason. If you sometimes comment on it and just acknowledge the fact that the joke bombed or it sucked, sometimes you can get a laugh and get yourself back on track. Whereas if it just bombs and you just kind of like uncomfortably, you know, keep going into the next bit, you're kind of going to throw yourself off.
So you have to develop some kind of trust, right? The fact that, you know, a joke that you're coming up with is actually a good one, right?
Yeah. So the trust comes from just doing it over and over and over again, and just knowing in your head, you know, this is something that consistently works. You almost like kind of like an athlete, like, you know, I think to like basketball when I used to play basketball. Like I had my go-to moves that I knew kind of worked in different scenarios, whereas like comedy in somewhat the same way. Like I know, okay, this joke works with an older crowd. This joke works with a younger crowd, and I've tested them on so many different audiences. I've done it at open mics. I have so much confidence in it that, you know, that's kind of like your weapons that you're going to use when you're up there.
So you have your go-to jokes that, you know, people, I also heard that a lot of people that do is that they go to a lot of different, you know, comedy shows and they start to like, you know, write down on people's jokes and then they try and change and make their own. Have you experienced that yourself, or you just totally make up your own stuff?
Oh yeah, no, I've never stolen jokes. I have not. You know, sometimes when you're watching people set, it might, you know, spark you to write something, but you know, I would never like take someone else's premise and then turn it into my own. But yeah, no, people get pissed off at you if you do that. You know, there's a lot of times, you know, you'll hear about it, like people get off stage and say, "Oh, that joke's like mine." I've had that a couple times, like maybe once or twice with a couple jokes I've done just about being tall.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been maybe another comic that's tall on the show. And he's like, "Hey, I kind of have a similar joke to you." And I was like, "All right, well, if we're on the same show, maybe we'll have to talk about who's going to do which bit." But for the most
Wow,
part,
so you have to compare. You have to like.
Yeah, but for the most part, like it doesn't really come up that much, just because, like I said, I'm writing my own stuff, so it's not like anybody else is really doing it.
So if you write your own stuff, how do you, you know, overcome any type of blockages you might have? Do you ever, you know, try to write something you just can't think of anything?
Well, yeah, you go through that. You go through that a lot, where like you're trying to, you know, sometimes I'll go a full month where it's been like, man, I didn't write anything new. But you just kind of have to trust the fact that something's going to pop into your head at some point. You know, it kind of comes in waves a little bit. Like I'll have a month where I'm just writing in my notebook a ton. There's just flowing out. I'm coming up with good stuff. And then I'll go maybe a few months where it's like, I can't think of anything. It's just, I don't know. That's just how it is for me. I don't know if that's how it is for everyone.
And how about like fear, you know, of like not coming with anything? Does that, anything you ever deal with? Like, you know, I can't come with anything, and then all of a sudden you get like really fearful about what's going to happen next?
Yeah, I worry sometimes when you are going through a drought, when you can't come up with more material. It makes me think of, have you ever seen the comedian Doug Stanhope? Are you familiar with him? So he does a bit that where he says, he's talking about celebrities, and maybe when they've kind of are done creatively, he says, well, they're just all out of shit. They don't have anything more creatively. Sometimes I always worry when I can't think of something new, like, I'm all out of shit. Maybe I'm not going to be able to think up anything else. But it ends. It always ends. You know, something will pop into my brain, you know, in a week, 2 weeks or something.
So you never like suffer with anything about unworthiness and feeling unworthy about being a good comedian?
Feel unworthy. I mean, sometimes when you're on a show, you wonder, you know, hey, do I belong on this show and stuff like that? Especially like, you know, last year I was kind of fortunate, you know, to do some shows with some fairly, you know, big name people, some decent clubs and stuff like that. So sometimes that might creep into my brain a little bit, but I always think, you know, like I've been working hard, you know, I deserve to be here.
So what you do also requires a good deal about, you know, right amount of consciousness, right? Having the consciousness that, you know, you're doing the right thing and you're feeling connected in the flow, right?
Yeah. I mean, you do have to kind of feel out the audience, as far as a lot of times it's just depending on, especially in Florida, you know, the age. You know, sometimes they'll do a show and it's ancient, you know, out there. Yeah, I've done some old crowds, and it's like, okay, some of the things I do that are references to, you know, people my age, you know, I'm 30, you know, is not going to work for somebody that's, you know, 75. So I have to kind of change it to something that can just, you know, it's just a joke that anybody can enjoy, which doesn't work with all of my material. So yeah, you have to always be conscious, always be light on your feet when you're up there too, you know, to not be in a set order of what you're doing.
So does Dan have future plans? Like, what's coming up next with you with the comedy routines?
So I mean, I have some shows coming up. As far as I have one Saturday, I run a show that I've been doing for almost 4 years now. It's called Comedy Basement. It's at American Rock Bar in Deerfield. I'm doing a run of shows next week at Gregory's Comedy Club in Cocoa Beach, January 31st through February 2nd. And then I got a really cool show in March at the Pittsburgh Improv.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like a Wednesday show, so I got to fly in for that. But it'll be cool to kind of be back in my, where I was born. I was born in Pittsburgh. To get to do a show there. I did an open mic there probably 5 or 6 years ago. It went terrible, so it'll be nice to kind of, redeem myself and see how far I've come.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Dan, how did people find you? Like, how did people, see your stuff? Like, do you have, a Facebook page, something like that, or is it geared towards your comedy stuff?
I do. I have a Facebook page called Dan Long Comedy. Also Instagram, Sharp Dressed Dan on Instagram, and then I have some YouTube clips. If you just look up Dan Long stand up on YouTube, I have probably 2, maybe 3 clips on there, like 5-minute set, maybe a 15-minute set. So yeah, check those out.
I just want to thank everybody for coming on board and check us out, everything like that. I'm gonna be doing a show pretty much bringing different people that are doing different things. They're starting out at different parts of their careers and everything like that. And I know Dan for a little while now, and I really like what he's doing. He's a good guy. He's got a good personality and everything like that. Do you want to throw another joke before we close out?
I think I'm good. I don't know. I don't know if any others fit for a 2-man show here. But so thank you, Mark, for having me. This is fun. Hopefully,
yes, it was definitely great.
I can inspire someone to do stand-up. That would be cool.
You have anything to say in closing?
No, just come out and see one of my shows sometime. Like I said, I do a lot of shows in Florida, so come check me out.
All right, so that's it, and it's been a really special, really thankful to Dan for coming over here, and I want to say good night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.